Standards Practice Week 7. Number 1. Find the slope of the line that passes through the points -1, 9, and 3, 17. So we're looking for slope. So let's start with this. Let's review what slope is. Slope is how much does your y change over how much your x changes, which is the same as rise over run. So delta y over delta x is the same as rise over run, or subtracting the y's over subtracting the x's. So you might also see it like this. Your second y minus your first y over your second x minus your first x. Okay, so let's look at the information they gave us. -1, 9. Every coordinate is written in xy form. So I want to decide which do I want to be my first point and which one do I want to be my second point. Well, I'm just going to do it in order. So this is my first point. My ones always go together. And this is my second point. So now I just plug these values into this equation. So y2 is 17 minus y1, which is 9, over x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is -1. So I have 17 minus 9 over 3 minus -1. 17 minus 9 is 8, and 3 minus a -1 is the same thing as 3 plus a +1, which is 4. And then you just simplify it to get your answer. Number 2, what is the value of the expression 4 parentheses xy in parentheses squared minus 2x plus 5y for x equals 6 and y equals 2? So first thing I need to do is plug in the x and y for their actual values. So 4 parentheses 6 times 2, because these next to each other means multiplication, squared minus 2 times 6 plus 5, and y is 2. Order of operations says I should do all my grouping first. So this is grouped together, so I'm going to do 4. 6 times 2 is 12. Minus 2 times 6 plus 5 times 2. Alright, so I did grouping. Now I need to do any exponents. So that would be 12 squared, not 4 squared and 12 squared, just 12 squared. So 12 squared is 144. Minus 2 times 6 plus 5 times 2. So then, in order of operations, you should do any multiplication or division, left to right. Well, I only have multiplication, so I'm going to multiply this together, and this together. So first thing I want to do is 4 times 144, which is 576. 2 times 6 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. So then I need to do adding and subtracting left to right. So this is my order of operations. So I'm going to do 576 minus 12 first, and then I'm going to take that answer and add 10, and that would be the answer to number 2. Let's move on to number 3. Extended response. Camilla and Nadia start a business tutoring students in math. They rent an office for $250 per month and charge $20 per hour per student. Just know that this is a very convoluted question, and another math teacher and I agree that this was a poor question for this level. But we're going to do what the book wants us to do for this problem, so you can get full credit as long as you follow these steps. It says if they have 10 students each for 1 hour per week, how much profit do they make in a month? Alright, so there's 2 of the tutors, and they're going to have 10 students each. So this is the number of tutors, and each of them have 10 each, so 10 students. Well, each time, for every hour, they get charged $20. So I'm going to, let's see, that's how much money per hour. And it says 1 hour per week, so I'm just going to assume that there's times 1. And then I know that I need to do 4 weeks, because we're going to say that there's 4 weeks in 1 month. And they want to know how much profit do we make per month. So times 4. So this is weeks per month. Well, the only thing that I need to account for is that they do have to pay this $250 for rent. So this is how much money they're making, but then they have to subtract the $250 they got charged for that month in order to figure out how much total profit they get. So order of operations, remember we got grouping, exponents, multiplication and division left to right, and addition and subtraction left to right. Well, there's no grouping, there's no exponents, so you need to do the multiplication next. So you want to multiply all of this together first. So 2 times 10, which is 20, times 20 times 4. Figure out what this answer is and subtract 250, and that'll give you your profit. Now let's just look at writing the linear equation to solve the problem. So in general, we want the y to be the profit, and x is going to be the number of hours tutored. And we're just going to go by what the book is looking for here. There's debate on what they were actually looking for their x variable, but we're just going to use this because this goes along with our text. So their profit is going to be how much they get per hour per student. So it's going to be $20 for every hour per student. But they're going to have to take away the $250 because that's what they have to pay for rent. And this is only for 1 month. So this is what this graph is representing, or what we're going to represent in this graph. So let me fix this. Okay, so if we were to graph this equation, we would start on the y-intercept, because if we're looking at our equation, this is our slope, and this is our y-intercept. So we would start at negative 250 and put a dot, and then we would go up 20 over 1, up 20 over 1, or I could just figure out when y is 0. So that would be, so I could figure out where I need to cross my x-axis, because my y value would be 0. So let me find out what that would be. So if my y was 0, 20x minus 250, if I add 250 to both sides, so I get 250 equals 20x. So to get x by itself, I would divide by 20 on both sides. So if I divide both sides by 20, I get x is 12.5. Oh, I'm running out of room. 12.5. So that would mean if I had another coordinate, it would be 12.5 comma 0. So I'm going to mark that one on my graph. So that's 8, 10, 12. So in the middle, that would be 14. So that'd be 13. So really close to that. And then you would draw your line. And like I said, this was a pretty convoluted problem. But just to simplify it, we're just going to use this equation.